on cue. Pause all print jobs for the release station is a feature where any job sent would be held, and the user would get a pop-up letting them know they need to go to the printer location to release that job. The user would go to the printer location, they type in their Active Directory credentials into the release station terminal, their job or jobs would be displayed, no one else's, and they would release them at that time. So nothing prints until the user is standing right there, and this very often avoids that stack of paper at the printer at the end of the day that nobody ever came to collect, and it also helps with people printing sensitive material to a printer that they're not standing right next to. Deny printing if the number of copies exceeds is a restriction that we will place on a laser printer if we find that the laser printer is handling a lot of copies, 5 pages, 10 copies, 20 pages, 50 copies, 1 page, 30 copies. If you see that on a laser printer, especially if you have a copier in the same room or very close by, put this restriction on that laser printer and you'll be pushing off the actual copies onto the copy machine where they belong. Making copies of copy machine is anywhere between ½ cent and 1.5 cents per page. Printing on a laser printer can be as much as 4 to 8 cents per page. It's a big difference in cost if you're going to push this copy traffic off onto the copy machine. Deny printing if the document is reprinted within so many seconds handles several problems. One, it keeps people from circumventing this restriction right here. If I want 2 copies of my 10-page job, I just click print twice, unless I'm enforcing this bottom restriction. This bottom restriction also avoids wasteful printing, whereas a user that sends a print job to a printer that's out of paper, very often when that user does not see their job come out of the printer right away, they will click print again, and maybe again and again, before they realize that they have to put paper in the printer. They put paper in the printer, 2, 3, or maybe even 4 jobs print out, and they all end up in the trash except for the original one that they needed. So that restriction is a real money saver when implemented.
Danny, with all of these restrictions and quotas, won't that slow down my printing?
Not at all, because the way Print Manager Plus holds a job, it does not stop anything else that is legitimately going to go through from getting through to the printer.
Oh, it doesn't. So it won't just hold all the print jobs in the queue altogether?
Only the jobs that meet any criteria that you specify in order to hold those jobs. Anything that does not meet that criteria and is okay to print based on your settings goes right past it, right to the printer.
Okay, and will Print Manager Plus actually slow down the time for the print job to go from the workstation to the actual printer itself? Does it, when it is tracking these print jobs, does it actually slow down the printing itself?
Not at all. The way Print Manager Plus monitors the printing, it monitors it without changing anything at all in the Windows Print subsystem. There is nothing that needs to be changed in what any typical setup already has. And it uses the standard Windows port monitors, which are very fast and very efficient, and the Windows spooler. And nothing is slowed down at all.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to enforce that 100-page restriction on users, and now the users that belong to that group have their quota and their restriction. And that concludes the demonstration of your typical setup with Print Manager Plus Standard Academic Edition.
I had a question on the printers. How do you know what the cost of each printer or the cost of printing is on each printer?
Excellent question. Under each printer, you can go in and edit exactly how that printer is going to associate a cost per page. And I can go in and take this off of the default printer settings into Advanced and hit Customize, and here's all your standard printer type, page types throughout the world, and what Print Manager Plus is charging for this cost per page. Give you an example of letter size, which is 8.5 by 11, is charging 5 cents per page for black and white and 7 cents per page for color. If I want to change it, I just change it right here. Legal here is using 7 cents per page for black and white and 9 cents per page for color. If the job is in fact duplex, you can apply a discount, which encourages users to use a duplex option, which is very environmentally friendly, good for the bottom line of the school, and also allows a student's quota to last longer if they're going to be printing more. If I'm going to apply this setting now, this printer now is not operating off of the default setting. It's now operating off of the advanced setting. The rest of these printers are operating off the default setting, which is this entry right up here. And if I want to edit that entry and have all the printers operating from the same expense, I can very simply edit the per page costs there. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I saw you had a plotter there. Is that does that track differently than a normal printer?
Yes. In fact, if you have a plotter, I can set this printer as a plotter, or I can set it as a printer, depending upon how I want to track that. If you're using irregular page sizes, we give you the option to track that printer by linear inch. If you're using standard page sizes, you can track that printer by printable area. So depending upon what your final needs are in the end as far as tracking goes, you can associate the right setting for that printer. If I'm going to set this as a plotter, I have the option, well, how much do I want to charge per inch? Or I can get more detailed than that. If the plotter does have a grayscale or color option, I can specify here how much I want to charge per linear inch for black and white or grayscale, and how much per linear inch for color.
Oh, okay. I had another question on the product itself, Print Manager Plus. Does it take up a lot of memory when it's installed on a server or I guess also a workstation?
No, it does not take up a lot of memory. It's very minimal, and in most cases, you barely even notice any additional CPU usage on top of what the print server is already dealing with.
Okay. And as far as the database is concerned, what kind of database does Print Manager Plus use? Is it its own proprietary database?
Not at all. Print Manager Plus uses any Microsoft database, all the way from Microsoft Access to MSDE to SQL 2005 Express to all versions of SQL 2000 and newer, including the latest versions released 2008. And those options are all in the install wizard to select from, depending upon the size of your setup and what you want to do with your Print Manager Plus implementation.
Okay. Do I have to install this on all of my workstations if I am using a print server?
Not at all. If you're tracking only, nothing needs to be installed on the workstation at all.
You said if I'm tracking only, what if I want to set a restriction?
You can still enforce any restrictions. If you want to send a pop-up notification to the user as far as what is happening when they've met a restriction, we give you two options. One is the protocol in Windows called NetSend, handled by the Messenger service. Typically, that would be disabled in an academic environment. If that is, then we have the module that pushes out to the workstations, and that handles the pop-up communication to the end users. There is no licensing fee on that. That's a free add-on for Print Manager Plus. Unlimited install.